Okay, so it's recently, actually, first of all, I would like to thank two of my friends who came here today. I asked them if they wanted to come listen and hear me blabber on. My friend Uriel Castro, he brought his family with him over here. He's all right. And then Matias, my friend over here, he's also great. Both friends with Crew Ministries. But I've recently been notified that some of you guys don't always understand my vocabulary or some lingo that I may use. For example, like I sometimes might say, "Oh, that was sick," or "That was fire," and some of you guys are like, "What is this kid talking about?" It's usually just referring to like, "Oh, that was great," or "That was wonderful." But I do ask for you guys. I'll try to do my best and not use that as much. We're told to know our audience and not speak to the way they know. So I do ask that you guys forgive me if I slip up, and I ask that you guys don't judge me, which actually leads perfectly into what we're going to be talking about today, which is Romans 2 and part of 3, where it talks about judgment and judging others. We won't be reading through every verse of Romans 2 because there's just not going to be enough time. But we're going to look at some key things and some important themes that we need to understand. So we'll start off first immediately in verse 1 of chapter 2 in the book of Romans. It says, "You therefore have no excuse, you who pass judgment on someone else, for at whatever point you judge the other, you are condemning yourself, because you who pass judgment do the same things." Okay, we'll start right there. I'll give you guys a little overlook at what Romans 2 is. Paul's talking to the very religious Jewish people at this time. Romans 2 connects really well with Romans 1 because there's a list of sins and horrible things that Paul was talking about. And the Jewish people were like, well, there's no way he's talking about us. We're holy, we're perfect, whatever. But actually, Paul is directly talking to them. He calls them out, and he's like, I'm talking about you. So we'll go into verses 2. Immediately in the first verse, it's saying that we have no excuse to judge. Okay, because if we condemn those who are committing sins, we're condemning ourselves by committing the same sins, right? So in verses 2 and 3, it says, "And we know that God in his justice will punish anyone who does such things. Since you judge others for doing these things, why do you think you can avoid God's judgment when you do the same things?" So I want to say, I completely understand when it comes to judging people, okay? And our times, we have the media, we have social media, all this and that, and we see some things where as Christians, we're like, oh, it brings, unfortunately, it brings disgust of, it to way too far. We take it way too far sometimes. And I understand that. I was actually literally just last night, I was at a Portland Thorns game. That's a professional women's football team or soccer team, for those of you who like to sound incorrect and use incorrect terms, okay? But this professional women's team, right, I'm watching them, but I'm in the middle of this crowd. And, man, there was just a lot of things that, as a Christian, we don't follow that. And these people are proud of showing this sinful nature and sinful way of life, and I just look around, and all of a sudden I started judging. I'd look at single people. I'd be like, "You're actually parenting like that? Why do you, certain things that you should, it just should not be, because it just is taken to a certain point where it's sinful." My mind kept on thinking thoughts, and I kept on thinking and thinking and thinking. It just brought me into an area of where I was not just judging the sin, I was condemning the person. And so, two things came to my mind. First was, dude, you got to chill out. You're literally going to preach this in a few hours the following morning, okay? I got to chill. Second of all, I had to get into deep prayer, right? Because I was thinking, man, these people are the creation of God. They're made in his image. I was in deep prayer, and he reminded me that he's deeply in love with them. These are his creation, and they're made in his image. In Genesis in Genesis chapter 1, verse 27. So God created man in his own image. In the image of God, he created him. Male and female, he created them. So, yes, the things that we judge on sometimes are sin. They are evil, okay? But we're not meant to condemn these people, okay? Now, some of you might think, well, I don't really do that on a daily basis. I don't really this sin isn't really the sin of my season right now, right? And some of you guys may be thinking this is just another sermon on judgment where I'm just like, okay, whatever. Yeah, I get it. But first, here's the issue with this, okay? We hear this over and over and over again because we're human and we're very sinful and we're not good at listening, okay? It's like little kids. I work sometimes with kindergartners, okay? I say, no, don't put that in your mouth. Immediately, they go to put it in their mouth. No, don't put that in your mouth. Again and over, it's back and forth. We are like children. We're like children when it comes to hearing these things because we don't like to listen, okay? So, then second, if we're in relaxation and we're thinking, I don't really deal with this often or it's not the sin of my season, we've got to be careful because that's where the enemy likes to attack, in places where we're just relaxed. 1 Corinthians 10:12. So if you think you are standing firm, be careful that you don't fall, right? So look, we might not go up to people on the streets and we might not go up to them and say, you're a wretch, you're going to go to hell, you're going to go to eternal damnation, right? At least I don't think you guys do, right? But a lot of the times, those who think, I don't do it as much, it happens more in the mind. See, for me, that's what happens. And this is embarrassing to say, but I'm so deep into this sin sometimes that it just happens subconsciously. How disgusting is it that we're so far into sin, that we get so far into sin, so deep, that it subconsciously happens in our minds daily? I think that's just horrendous. That's horrible, right? So it brought me to a big realization just this week as well. I judge a lot, right? And that, like I said, it happens on a daily basis, and it happened to me last night even, right? But we're not the people who get to have the final say. We're not the ones who are ultimately going to be the judges on Judgment Day. That's going to be God, because he's going to be rightfully the one who judges us, okay? If we believe the things that we're judging on are sinful, if we go to our friend and we condemn, if we're judging them for some crazy sin that they did, and we believe that it's wrong, okay, how are we going to forget that we are also going to be judged for the things that we sin, right? Because we commit the exact same sins that our friends commit. We do the exact same wrongs every day, daily. We're evil sinners. Here's the thing, we steal, we lust, we idolize, all while thinking that others and everybody else is so unholy. Guys, we are horrible human beings, okay? As Christians, we are horrible, okay? I want you guys to flip to chapter 3, verse 10 through 18 in Romans, okay? I want to read this, all of it, okay? Because it hits hard. I hope it does. I hope it sounds harsh, and I hope it sounds mean, okay? Because I'm being so serious. We need to come to that realization. It says, as it is written, there is no one righteous, not even one. There is no one who understands, no one who seeks God. All have turned away. They have together become worthless. There is no one who does good, not even one. Their throats are open graves. Their tongues practice deceit. The poison of vipers is on their lips. Their mouths are full of cursing and bitterness. Their feet are swift to shed blood. Ruin and misery mark their ways, and the way of peace they do not know. There is no fear of God before their eyes. I hope each and every single one of you guys are feeling called out right now. I hope there's a conviction. because we're being called out. We have to come to this realization that we are wretched. You know, when I read these verses, it actually reminds me of a teacher of mine that I had in high school. It was my junior year. I took a class called AP World History, and I don't know how it was that we got to talking about the letters of Paul, but I just remember he was like, dude, my teacher, he said, I don't know how you guys follow the letters and the teachings of such a mean guy. You're Christians. You guys are supposed to be nice. He says, if we were to translate the Greek words into English, we'd see how rude and harsh he was when he'd say them. Now, something humorous came to my mind because, look, I work in the school district from ages of kindergarten all the way up till seniors in high school. So if I see a kid in the hallways brutally beating up some other kid on the ground, I'm not going to go up to him and say, hey, buddy, are you okay? Are you a little frustrated? And this is to the kid who's beating up the other one. I'm not going to go up to him and be nice or sound nice. I'm going to be harsh. I have to kick him into reality and letting him know, dude, you're messing up. You're beating another kid. I'm going to sound mean. I might even take him and beat him up myself. I'm kidding. We're not going to do that. I'm kidding. We're not. That is not our place. But, no, I would never. I don't think. But we need to wake up. We need to wake up. If what I just read to you has not convicted you and allowed you to understand that we're wretched, horrible, worthless sinners, then I do what my teacher said. Go translate it from Greek into English or something. Because we need conviction. We need to know we are not in the right. We're hypocrites because we are no one to judge anyone and look down on them because of their way of life, because we're not good enough to do so. That's the thing. We are not good enough to look at somebody else and look down on them and condemn because we're not in that place. We ourselves are not holy or righteous, right? So let's flip back to Romans 2. We're going to read between verses 19 and 20. This is Paul asking the Jews kind of an elongated question. He asked, and if you are sure that you yourself are a guide to the blind, a light to those who are in darkness, an instructor of the foolish, a teacher of children, having in the law the embodiment of knowledge and truth. So I want to stop right there really quick. After allowing them, the title and letting them, feel like, he kind of builds them up. He says, well, then if you teach others, why don't you teach yourself? Right? We're sinners, guys. We screw up too. Therefore, we are hypocrites when we go out and call out people and condemn them, okay? See, we're so good at going out to preach. We're so good at saying, hey, you're in the wrong. Hey, you got to fix this. Hey, you got to fix that. But right after doing that, we turn around and we go straight into our sin. We go straight into doing the things that into our own sinful nature. We're just so good at that. And it's horrible. I'm going to repeat a lot of things. We're hypocrites. That's what we are. If we're going to tell others to check themselves, we got to check ourselves first. In Matthew, it says, Matthew 7:5, it says, you hypocrite. First take the plank out of your own eye, and then you will see clearly to remove the speck from your brother's eye. Again, a reminder, we've all turned away, and together we've become worthless or useless, as it says in other translations. Romans 3:23, for all have fallen short of the glory of God. For all have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. Okay, so I'm going to end with this, okay? Now we're going to ask the question of, now what? What are we meant to go and do from here? Okay, I'd like to think that we've been bashed, we've been told, we've been called out, we've been, been called wretched. So what do we do with that? Of course, we're going to go live our life, okay? But think about it. Don't just, say, that really tall and handsome Mexican dude spoke a pretty good word to the Sunday. Don't just think that. I want you guys to take this and dive deep into what we're talking about today. Because you can come here, get bashed, you can get told, hey, you're wrong, hey, you're this, hey, that, and you can even feel like, oh yeah, you know what, I've been sanctified today. But if we don't take it ourselves and apply it to our daily lives, if we don't dive deep into what the Word has to say, we're never going to understand the actual truth of how wretched we actually are. We're never going to get that conviction. We're never going to feel that like disgust of ourselves. We're not. So that's what I encourage you guys to do after being bashed, after being told you guys are in the absolute wrong, we all are. Take this today and day by day, dive deep, whether it be in Romans 2 or somewhere else, dive deep and understand we're not in the right. Matthew 4:4, man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that comes from the mouth of God. We got to live like that. We're not right. Let's stand for closing word of prayer. Father, I just want to thank you for another day of life. I want to thank you for another Sunday. And I want to thank you for loving us, even with us being so horrible. It's crazy because with us being so horrible, you decided to send your one and only Son to die for us, who lived a perfect life, who deserved absolutely nothing, no penalty, came to die for us because you just loved us so much. You created us in your own image, and you're in love with us. And I want to thank you for that, Lord. Thank you for having your mercy on us. Let us apply this into our daily lives, God, and speak to us daily on what we need to be doing and how we're messed up. In your name I pray. Amen. Have a good weekend, guys. Yeah.